All right, it's time for News or Snooze, presented by Christopher William Jewelers. Bennett, he'll give me three questions. He'll give me three quotes. I'll say if they're newsworthy or snooze-worthy. Let's go.
All right, this is Jalen Green on some interview with Dave Rigger. He said, he was asked about like his long-term plans post football. He said, what's ideal for me is a more front office type of role. Long-term ideal wise, I could see myself wanting to be a general manager of a franchise. And he continued to say, but I'm not sure about coaching. They've got a lot of hours. Loved that quote.
That's a great quote. I'll say it's newsworthy just because that's a great quote. He's not wrong too, especially if you're a college football coach. The season's never over.
Would also be cool. We'll see what his pro career looks like after the rehab and everything, but it would be pretty interesting to see if he followed that path and tried to get into like a front office role. It'd be super cool.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2, not a quote, but this is just a fact, a statement of fact. Heaven Bristow, supposed star player for the women's basketball team, Ohio State transfer. Her waiver was denied. She will not play this year, but she's eligible to play next season for the Dukes.
Newsworthy for a few reasons. Weird thing that the NCAA has against JMU and these waivers, I guess. I don't think actually that I think they're very mutually exclusive and they don't play into each other whatsoever. It's just kind of funny that these waivers continue being denied for JMU. With that being said, very interesting approach from women's basketball, from Coach O, from that program, like how they went about with the waiver. They applied for it like very close to the start of the season because they thought like that would help them. Clearly it didn't. She was expected to be like a star guard, getting heavy rotational minutes. So it's a pretty big blow in terms of what this women's basketball team is expected this year. But next year, it could be huge because Peyton McDaniel listed as a redshirt sophomore. The only senior on this team is the UVA transfer. There's a chance this team can run it back and just like get even better.
Yeah, depending on what exactly happens with the roster, who they keep, things like that, kind of sets them up like to have all their like young, talented players or like mid-level players just more experience with Bristow next year, who I'm assuming can still practice with them. Kind of sets them up for like an NCAA tournament win kind of outlook next year. So
It's like, remember, was it 2 years ago now when JMU women's basketball was like turning the ball over at like an exceptionally high clip, but like they clearly had the talent. And we kept saying next year is going to be so much fun. And then the next year they went to an NCAA tournament game, nearly upset Ohio State. This kind of feels like the same thing.
yeah, it gives me like a tiny bit of softball vibes where COVID actually came at a really good time. They all got an extra year. So they played a few games that 2020 season, all just like practiced together more, got more experience, and then ran it back and made the Women's College World Series. Would not expect like a Final Four run or anything, but it could end up being sort of a blessing in disguise in some ways, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. This is from The Athletic's Bruce Feldman in an article. One sitting head coach we think will get some consideration is James Madison's Curt Cignetti, who might be open to jumping from the Dukes to Duke. He has built JMU into a legit FBS program, blah, 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 blah. Talks about the record, blah, blah. He's also familiar with North Carolina, having spent 2 seasons in the state while he was the head man at FCS program Elon. Word is that Cignetti is also in the mix for the Indiana coaching vacancy.
That all sounds great. I highly expect Cignetti to be involved in a lot of these vacancies. I'm putting it at a 50-50 shot he leaves this offseason.
Wow.
I think there's a good chance it happens, but I also think that like he won't just leave. I think it has to be like a good opportunity. He was really calculated in leaving Alabama to go to a Division II program. He was really calculated in choosing to go to Elon. Then he was even calculated to leave Elon, which is what he built into JMU. And plus, his dad told him that he needed to keep an eye on JMU. So I don't think he just throws that to the wayside per se. If West Virginia or Pitt come available, maybe not Pitt because they just fired his brother. So I think Pat Narduzzi still has a few years left up there. But like West Virginia is probably the one job that I would give it a 95% chance he leaves for. Indiana, not so sure. You got a short leash. They weren't happy with what the coach was doing there, and he was doing all right. And Duke, I could see making the jump to, but I would put that as like a 50-50.
I feel like the point you made is he's gonna have to leave for like the right fit for him, right?
Too old.
He's got some time left. He says he wants to coach till he's 75.
Sure, but you gotta get. Would you rather have a coach at 62 with only 13 years left, or a coach at 37
But
with a
that's
lot of
the
years left?
but that's like if you're Duke, you're not getting a guy for 30 years. You know what I mean? So that's where it becomes interesting, depending on the job. Like Mike Elko is there for 2 seasons and said bye. But like you gotta know what situation you're going to. It's hard to win at like Syracuse already hired a Georgia assistant, but people are floating him for Syracuse, Indiana, Duke, 3 basketball schools. Kind of hard to win at
Well,
basketball schools.
he's also coaching at a basketball school now.
Well, they're not a basketball school anymore. Football boys. Well, maybe they're in everything school, right? So you'd rather be in everything school. I just think it's hard to go like it's easier to win at JMU than it is at Indiana. So I like, would you leave for Indiana knowing that like you're probably never going to beat Ohio State or Michigan consistently?
I would be very interested to see what incentives, what raises, everything like that he gets, because Daniel wrote an awesome article over on jmusportsnews.com breaking down his contract, what his base pay is, what all of his incentives are. He is a woefully underpaid group of 5 coach, FBS in general coach. Indiana will probably offer him what, $5 million a year?
That's true. That's true.
Going from 750,000 to 5 million or more. It's a Big Ten school. They have the budget.
I think with him, I want to say that he would consider and be like, what if I waited it out for one where I think I can win and get that, even if it takes 2 more years? Like if the JMU goes to the playoff next year, adds a little more credibility to him. Well, kind of a lot more credibility in terms
If
of
they
like,
go to the playoffs, he could go to he'd be like a big fish to fry. Like he would probably
yeah.
have been in been a serious contender for Texas A&M if he went to the college football playoff and won a game or even just
Yeah.
went.
So then you're looking at like a big time job, probably at a place you can win more consistently, end your career there, still have some legacy. I've seen some people talk and say like he wants to stay at JMU to build a legacy. You can build a coaching legacy somewhere else also. Like it's not the only place
He's
you can like
also
be remembered.
He's also built one at JMU. Like he
Yeah.
will be forever enshrined in JMU lore. He will be if they ever bring like a statue area on campus, like he'll be one of the first statues put up, probably with like McMillan and
I
I don't
like
know.
this, a statue area. They need to get that. Don't expand. They should just take out Godwin and add like a section of statues.
You know what I mean, though?
No,
Like
I know. I know what you mean. Well, like, yeah, you could do him like outside the stadium in a certain spot or something and have like multiple. Yeah, he's a great coach. So I don't know. Some JMU fans are like super confident that he's here for the rest of his career. I'd be
I'm
kind of
not.
surprised because he's such a good coach. If he has a decade left, I don't know. It seems pretty easy to go to a Power Five.
Yeah.
I hope he
Especially
stays.
the thing is like legacy, all of that. You can't you can't get inside someone's head when it comes to money. That is so much money. That's $3 million more, $3.25 million more than what he's making now.
And like there is something to be said for like I think Bridgeport's atmosphere is improving dramatically and is a really fun place to watch a game. The fan base is passionate as heck. If you go to like a Power Five game with 100,000 people in the stands, it's different. Like it's just a little bit different. It's very cool. It's one that you can't completely replicate. Like you can't blame somebody if they want to coach in that kind of environment, in those kind of games, or have a realistic chance at making the playoff. And it's gonna be a lot easier in a Power Five conference because they're going to get multiple bids. I know some people are like, JMU's got a path. The path is being the best out of 5 conferences, right? You have to be the best out of the American, the Sun Belt, the MAC, Conference USA, and the Mountain West. And that's not
Let's
the
be
easiest thing in the
honest.
world.
Let's be honest.
You
3
can
of
take out
those
the
don't
MAC.
count. Yeah.
You can take
And
out the MAC. But
Conference
like,
USA.
there are going to be teams though, like Liberty, if they go undefeated and get a good enough non-conference schedule, could run the table in CUSA, have enough reputation, and still maybe be the team. So it gets a little harder, but